factual,
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
timely information, balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Aguila Provincia.
Sa mga taga-Iloilo at Antique, mapiyang
Tune into Mata ng Agila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Agila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International
On
delivers the
tonight's
latest
headlines.
global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to thank our health outdoor
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights. Sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Totoo ang kasabihang may pera sa basura, lalo na kung magagawa ang iba't ibang bagay mula sa mga recyclable material na inaakala ng iba na itatapon na. May ilang barangay sa bansa ang nagre-recycle ng basura at makikita ang iba't ibang bagay na gawa sa basura. Mga dekorasyon sa bahay, sa mga proyektong ito, nagiging malinis ang kapaligiran bukod sa mayroon pang pagkakakitaan.
Is quite as simple as it seems. To understand the world better, we need to take a closer look. science knowledge. Tomorrow Today.
Ito ang ating himig.
Ang OPM. Ito ang himig ng lahi.
Can you feel it? Do you like it? Do you want it?
So good! I love it!
Okay, then buckle up, put the pedal to the metal, and let's ride. Rev.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching Eagle News International. Good evening, CJ.
Good evening, Alma, and good evening to everyone joining the broadcast. Here are tonight's headlines.
The death toll due to Storm Maring has risen to 30, with 14 still missing, according to Malacanang, citing the latest data from the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council.
A man armed with a bow and arrows kills 5 people and wounds 2 others in southeastern Norway, according to police, adding that they have arrested the suspect.
And an overnight fire tore through a building in the southern Taiwanese city of Kaohsiung, killing 46 people and injuring dozens of others in the island's deadliest blaze in decades.
And Star Trek actor William Shatner finally
was for them, and I can't wait to hear their
on
stories.
Blue Origin second mission, calling it the most profound experience of his life.
It's just...
First, here in the country, the death toll due to Storm Maring has risen to 30, with 14 still missing, according to Malacanang, citing the latest data from the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. The NDRRMC said 13, or almost half of the total casualties, were aged 26 to 60. 10 victims were children, with ages ranging from less than a year old to 14 years old. Take a look. Now, 4 were aged 61 above. 16 of the casualties were male, 13 were females, while 1 is yet to be identified. As of Thursday, October 14, displaced families reached 1,100 or 1,775, or a total of 7,370 persons who are staying in 124 evacuation centers in Regions 1, which is Ilocos Region, Region 2, Cagayan Valley, 3, Central Luzon, Mimaropa, Region 4B, 6, Western Visayas, Caraga, and the Cordillera Administrative Region, or CAR. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said that more than 20 million pesos in assistance had already been given to the affected families, including family food packs worth 1.7 million pesos. The Department of Agriculture, meanwhile, said the estimated cost of damage to agriculture was around 692 million pesos.
A 37-year-old Danish man was being questioned by Norwegian police in custody Thursday. According, the chief suspect wanted for killing 5 people by bow and arrow in the country's deadliest attack in a decade.
Police have so far refused to rule out terrorism and released no information about possible motive after the deadly attack in the southeastern town of Kongsberg on Wednesday. In details that remain sketchy, 5 people were killed and 2 injured in several locations in the town center, shocking normally tranquil Norway, where murder is rare. The suspect is believed to have acted alone. Police late Wednesday identified the suspect as a 37-year-old Danish citizen living in Kongsberg, a small town of around 25,000 inhabitants, 80 kilometers west of Oslo. Norwegian media also wondered why it took police more than a half hour after the first reports of the attack to arrest the suspect. Police were informed of the attack at 6:13 p.m. and the suspect was arrested at 6:47 p.m. A witness identified only as Hansen told TV2 she had heard a disturbance, then saw a woman take cover and a man standing on the corner with arrows in a quiver on his shoulder and a bow. The suspect was questioned by investigators overnight and is due to go before a judge on Thursday or Friday for a custody hearing. Norwegian television station TV2 said the suspect had confessed. The channel reported to Islam and has a history of health problems, though
rounds calling on civilians to evacuate the area. Prime Minister Najib Mikati called for calm to be restored and warned against attempts to drag Lebanon into violence.
2 U.S. Postal Service employees were shot dead in a gun attack at a Tennessee post office, according to authorities. Now, the suspected shooter opened fire at the East Lamar Carrier Annex in Memphis and then died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. She said U.S. Postal Inspector Susan Link told reporters that both victims, as well as the shooter, were Postal Service employees, and there is no ongoing threat. An investigation has been launched, she said. Both Link and Culp declined to give further details about the shooting. Mass shootings and other gun violence are huge problems in the United States, issues that gun control advocates say are fueled by the prevalence of firearms and relatively lax gun laws.
Meanwhile, to the Myanmar crisis now, ASEAN foreign ministers will hold an emergency meeting to discuss the crisis there, including the member countries' representation at a summit meeting late this month. Crystal Mapa is monitoring the situation from Thailand. Crystal.
Yes, Alma, an emergency online meeting of ASEAN foreign ministers will be held on Friday to discuss military-ruled Myanmar and the member countries' representation at a summit meeting late October, according to ASEAN sources. A proposal from some member countries that Myanmar's military leader not be invited to the ASEAN summit meeting, while also repeating their calls for the military government to accept a special ASEAN envoy, are expected to be considered by the ministers. At a high-level ASEAN meeting last Friday, Singapore, Indonesia, and Malaysia proposed that General Min Aung Hlaing not be allowed to participate in the summit. Instead, Myanmar's military-appointed foreign minister or a senior official could participate in the leaders' meeting, the sources said. Meanwhile, the United States is urging some ASEAN member countries to take a firm stance toward the Myanmar military. Same sources also mentioned that UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres postponed a scheduled regular meeting with ASEAN foreign ministers due to his dissatisfaction with the military government's official status in the grouping. Brunei's second foreign minister and ASEAN special envoy on Myanmar, Erywan Yusof, said in a press conference that there was still no consensus among ASEAN countries on the issue of Myanmar's representation at the summit. He also added that ASEAN was also consulting with its dialogue partners, such as China, Japan, and the United States, on the issue. Mr. Erywan Yusof, who was appointed as special envoy in August, has held consultations with Myanmar's military government on the implementation of a 5-point consensus that was agreed at an ASEAN summit in April in Jakarta. The said consensus calls for an immediate stop to violence and a constructive dialogue to be started among all parties concerned to seek a peaceful solution in the interest of the Myanmar people. It also says that the ASEAN Special Envoy shall facilitate mediation of the dialogue process. Mr. Yusuf reiterated his commitment to visit Myanmar and to be accepted to have access to all parties concerned in order to fulfill his role as mandated in the 5-point consensus. Back to you, Alma.
Thank you very much for your update regarding the crisis in Myanmar. Thank you, Crystal. Stay safe.
Likewise, Alma. Reporting from Thailand, I am Crystal Mapa. We live in interesting times.
An overnight fire tore through a building in the southern Taiwanese city of Kaohsiung on Thursday, killing 46 people and injuring dozens of others in the island's deadliest blaze in decades. The fire broke out in the 13-story mixed-use building in the house or small hours of Thursday morning, according to officials, raging through multiple floors before firefighters finally got it under control. Kaohsiung's fire department said it sent more than 70 trucks to tackle the blaze, which took 4 hours to put out. The fire department said the blaze caused 41 injuries and 46 deaths, officials adding that most of the fatalities occurred on floors 7 to 11, which housed residential apartments. The first 5 floors were for commercial use but were unoccupied. Residents reported hearing a number of loud noises when the fire first broke out on the lower floors. A constable at the Kaohsiung Police Department told AFP the building was 40 years old and mostly occupied by low-income residents. Survivors had estimated about 100 people lived in the apartment block, the constable added, giving only his surname Liu. Officials had not yet ruled out arson.
In other news, a fire blazes at the site of the main pavilion of the El Guna Film Festival on Egypt's Red Coast, briefly threatening its cancellation before later being brought under control. Take a look. Video posted on social media showed a blaze engulfing part of the open-air venue that hosts El Guna Film Festival before it was extinguished. The blaze damaged a small part of the main pavilion of the Film Fest just a day before its scheduled opening. 15 people who suffered smoke inhalation were rushed to hospital for treatment, according to a civil defense force official. The brainchild of property mogul Sami Sawiris, one of Africa's richest men, the festival has attracted Hollywood stars, including Forrest Whitaker and Owen Wilson, in previous editions. By tomorrow night, everything will be ready to go, according to Sawiris in a statement, adding that he suspected the fire had been caused by an electrical short circuit. The organizer said in a statement that an investigation would be launched into the cause of the fire. The 5th edition of the festival is set to run until October 22, boasting a roster of 80 Arab and international films.
The Cumbre Vieja volcano continues to spew lava, with flows of it going down the island towards the sea. According to experts, there is no chance of the eruption ending in the short or medium term. There is no prospect of the volcanic eruption in Spain's Canary Islands ending in the short or medium term, experts said Wednesday, after 3.5 weeks of activity. At the Cumbre Vieja volcano on La Palma Island, levels of sulfur dioxide don't currently lead us to think the end of the eruption will be in the short or medium term, said Maria Jose Blanco, spokesman for the Canaries volcanologist group, PIVOLCA. Other experts have suggested the event could last for weeks or even months. beginning on September 19. The latest eruption is the third in a century for La Palma, an island of 85,000 people after San Juan in 1949 and Teneguia in 1971. So far, no one has been killed by the continuous lava flows, but the molten rock has covered around 640 hectares or 1,600 acres and destroyed 1,400 buildings, 764 of them homes. More than 6,000 people have been evacuated, hundreds of them leaving all their belongings to the lava. Flights are currently reaching La Palma's airport, which has been closed twice during the eruption due to volcanic ash. Now, weather forecasts suggest it will be able to remain open for at least the next 4 days.
Meanwhile, Pamela made landfall on the western coast of Mexico as a Category 1 hurricane, but weakened to a tropical storm as it moved inland while bringing torrential rain, strong winds, and taking down trees and poles. Take a look. And the news continues here on Eagle News. We'll be right back.
This portion is brought to you by North Luzon Express Terminal.
Araw-araw sa panahon ngayon, may daming tanong kailangan ng tugon. Nandito si Ali at si Papi na rin, ang smart at pretty nanay, ang siglaban ng kwentuhan. Ang sigaw ng Pinoy Nation, information, education. Ating saloobin, ipakita natin ang magsagot sa problema natin. Ano sa palagay nyo? Ano sa palagay nyo? Ano sa palagay nyo?
Ano sa palagay nyo? Abangan! Simula October 18, Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 8 hanggang alas 10 ng umaga. Mapapanood sa Net25 TV, Facebook page, and YouTube channel. Mapapakinggan din sa DZEC 1062 at Eagle FM 95.5.
Welcome back to the news. The Philippines will allow cinemas and gyms to reopen in the capital, Manila, after a sharp fall in the daily number of coronavirus infections and increased vaccinations. The alert level status in Metro Manila will be downgraded to alert level 3 from the current alert level 4 beginning October 16. Here's presidential spokesperson Harry Roque.
Inaprubahan din ng inyong IATF ang paglalagay sa Metro Manila sa ilalim ng Alert Level 3 simula October 16 hanggang October 31, 2021. Ito po yung sinasabi natin nung nakaraang press briefing na dahil nasa moderate po ang ating healthcare utilization rate at moderate din ang ating 2-week attack rate at daily attack rate, po pwede nga pong maibaba sa level 3 ang alert level sa Metro Manila at nangyari na nga po. Puntahan naman natin po ngayon ang guidelines for areas under alert level 3. No? Unang-una po, pinapayagan ng intrazonal or interzonal travel subject sa reasonable restriction base sa edad at comorbidities as may be determined by the accepting LGUs. Isa-isahin naman natin po ang bawal o hindi po pwede sa alert level 3. No? Ito po mga bawal. face-to-face or in-person classes for basic education. Contact sports, except those na kinukonduct po sa bubble-type setup. No? Number 3, yung funfair, ferias, and amusement industries. Yung mga playgrounds, playroom, kiddie rides, bawal pa rin po. Yung mga venues with live voice or wind instrument performance and audiences. Mga karaoke, bawal pa rin po clubs, concert halls, at theaters. Yung mga casinos, horse trading, cockfighting, and operation of cockpits, lottery, and other betting stations, and other gaming establishments, except when authorized by the ITF or the Office of the President. At saka yung mga gathering in residences with individuals not belonging to the same household. Bawal pa rin po yung pagtitipon na sa mga bahay-bahay na hindi kasama sa mga kasama sa bahay. No? Ano naman po ang allowed? Well, ang allowed po ang general rule is 30% indoor venue, pero para lang po yan sa fully vaccinated. No? At 50% outdoor venue para sa lahat, whether or not fully vaccinated or hindi vaccinated. Kasama na po dito sa rule na 30% ay ang MICE, yung meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions, yung social events para sa mga venues, para sa mga parties, wedding receptions, engagement parties, etc. Yung mga visitor or tourist attractions, gaya po ng mga libraries, archives, museums, galleries, exhibits, park, plazas, public gardens, scenic viewpoints or overlooks, amusement parks or theme parks, yung recreational venues, gaya po ng internet cafes, billiard halls, amusement arcades, bowling alleys, public gardens, scenic bowling alleys, skating rings, archery halls, swimming pools at similar venue, cinemas and movie houses. Pero 30% po lang vaccinated. At saka yung mga examinations na pwede nang ma-administer. Mga entrance, qualifying examinations na mga iba't ibang government agencies at mga iba pang mga test at examinations na na-approve ng IATF. Kasama rin po sa pwede na 30% indoor venue para sa mga fully vaccinated at 50% para sa outdoor ay ang in-person religious gatherings. Kasama na po dyan yung para sa mga necrological service, wakes, interment, funerals, para po doon sa mga namatay other than COVID-19 at saka yung cremains of COVID-19 deceased. No? Yung mga dine-in services po ngayon, 30% yan for fully vaccinated, 50% for outdoor. Yung personal care establishment, barbero, hair spas, hair salons, nail salons, yung mga aesthetic, cosmetic services, procedures, mga makeup services, salon, spa, reflexology, and other similar procedure. Ang mga gyms and fitness studios, patuloy pong bukas sila. At saka ang mga film, music, TV production subject to the guidelines po na inisyu ng DTI, DOLE at ng DOH.
Now, however, the World Health Organization's representative in the Philippines called for very clear messaging about the restrictions to avoid putting people's lives at risk. Let's listen in.
This is a global pandemic, and we are adjusting or calibrating the restrictions because we don't want to talk about lowering or relaxing. It is important to understand that we are trying to manage and bring back as much economic activity as possible while not putting people's lives at risk. So this adjusting and calibrating is important, and we need to be very clear in our communication. It's not about relaxing or reducing the restrictions. It's about calibrating so that we continue to take risk-based measures. We continue to urge the population to do everything, the physical distancing, the hand hygiene, the mask wearing, even though they are fully vaccinated, because these are critically important to maintain and further strengthen the transmission reduction. We now have less than 2,000 cases on the average on a daily basis in NCR. We want to see that going down further. And so we need to be very careful in calibrating and adjusting restrictions so that we don't get risk. At the same time, we are also aware that in some regions we are still seeing increasing trend and transmissions, particularly in regions that Spokes Harry just mentioned, in northern Luzon and some parts of Visayas and Mindanao. So we are not completely out of this, and we need to be very careful the messaging and the relaxation of the non-pharmaceutical interventions.
Now, Bali reopened to international flights from select countries on Thursday, including China, Japan, and France. We have December Paras for the details. December, tell us more.
Good evening, CJ. That's good news for those who want to visit Bali, the island. You're right, the island reopened to international flights from selected countries, including China, Japan, France, on Thursday. But authorities in Bali said there were no international flights expected on Thursday. Foreign visitors must be vaccinated, quarantine in a hotel for 5 days, and follow strict visa requirements under new entry rules for travelers. Bali Ngurah Rai or Bali's Ngurah Rai International Airport was open to travelers from 19 countries, including South Korea, China, Japan, France, the United Arab Emirates, Dubai, and New Zealand. The partial reopening, however, does not include Australians, a key source of the millions of tourists who flocked to the island before the pandemic. The government announced emergency restrictions in the hardest hit areas, shutting down non-essential businesses and limiting people's movement. But case numbers are now falling nationwide as the government ramps up vaccinations across Southeast Asian archipelago of 270 million people. Authorities have begun a steady easing of restrictions as the country sees a decrease in daily confirmed COVID cases and deaths. The move follows Thailand's calibrated reopening that began in July with much fanfare, with the island of Samui and Phuket welcoming vaccinated tourists from multiple countries with hundreds on the opening days, while Vietnam plans to welcome foreigners to its Phu Quoc Island next month. Back to you, CJ.
Thank you so much, December, for your update. Please do take care over there, and we're hoping for the best for all of you guys there.
Thank you, CJ. Reporting from Jakarta, Indonesia, this is December Paras. We live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization announced the team of scientists who will study new pathogens as part of preventing future pandemics, a task to be carried out under the heavy shadow of the investigation into the origins of COVID-19. Take a look.
And other public health emergencies.
WHO today announced the proposed members of the WHO Scientific Advisory Group for the Origins of Novel Pathogens, or SEGO. The 26 experts were selected from over 700 applications and were chosen for their world-class expertise and experience in a range of disciplines.
Of interest. There was no political process associated with this selection, and we certainly need strong nations with scientific power to be part of the process, but it's their scientists we need, not their politicians.
Please.
People who received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine may greatly benefit from a booster dose of Pfizer or Moderna, preliminary results of a U.S. study shows. Antibodies were 35 times higher after a Pfizer booster and 76 times higher after a Moderna one. And antibody levels for those who had originally received Moderna shots were higher irrespective of the booster vaccine administered when compared with those who had initially received Pfizer or J&J, according to the study. Additionally, no safety concerns were identified after booster doses were administered. The study, which has not yet been peer-reviewed, has several limitations. However, the number of participants was small and the immune response could evolve over time beyond the 15 days observed during the study.
Now, in desperate need of cash, Kavita Jogani sells her gold wedding bangles at Mumbai's Jewelry Bazaar after her garment business took a severe hit from multiple coronavirus lockdowns. Take a look.
I've come here to sell the gold because we are in a very financial crisis due to the pandemic. just to meet our expenses. I don't have any other option rather than selling the gold. I don't know what to do, how this is going to be. And just to have our businesses are shut, and I don't know how further we'll carry. And the gold is the only thing which is able to get us money at midnight also. At present, I'm able to just survive. I don't know what's going to be further. Definitely, it's helped us a lot. The money which I've said earlier, I bought gold, now it has become useful to me. I'm going to advise my kids to invest in gold, and it will help them to rescue in hard times.
Last pandemic period, we have seen that more of the customers, especially female women, they are coming to sell the gold. Rather than buying the gold, they are coming to sell the gold. Because of this pandemic, their sources have been stopped of earning the money. They want to run their life, and to run the life, you need the money. I have a record of recycled gold, which is called as an old gold. It was around 234 tons of the gold was sold in this pandemic period. Usually, where India is a big importer. After China, India import around 800 to 900 tons. But now the story was different. Import has come down. The reason was that the gold people were coming to sell the gold.
Now, business closures and job losses pushed more than 230 million Indians into poverty in the past year, forcing many families and small businesses to put up gold jewelry as collateral to secure short-term loans to tide them over. Gold has immense financial and cultural significance in India. It's considered essential at weddings, birthdays, and religious ceremonies, and also seen as a safe asset that can be transferred from one generation to the next.
The Brooklyn Nets decided Tuesday to bar star guard Kyrie Irving from practice as well as games in the NBA season that starts next week because he refuses to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Take a look.
Halftime, I don't think that would be. Well, Kyrie's made it clear that he has a choice in this matter, and it's ultimately going to be up to him what he decides. We respect the fact that he has a choice and he can make his own and right to choose. As again, right now, what's best for the organization is the path that we're taking. And I don't want to speak for Kyrie. At the right time, I'm sure he will address his feelings and what the path may be for him.
Kyrie Irving says he's doing what's best for him in declining a COVID-19 vaccine. Irving addressed the issue on Instagram Live on Wednesday, confirming that he hoped to be back on the floor with his teammates eventually. But he said he would not bow to pressure to be vaccinated, while insisting he was neither anti nor pro-vaccines. Because of the pandemic, New York City implemented rules that do not allow unvaccinated athletes to take part in practices and games at public arenas. Eagle News will be right back. Please don't go away.
Hindi ito namumunga at hindi pa lubos na nakikilala. Abay sa larangan ng agrikultura, ito pala ay umaarangkada.
Halaman? Hindi ko alam. Hindi ko alam yung kung ano yung...
Citronella yung tinanim namin kasi madali hong kumita. Tuloy-tuloy po yung harvest.
Nag-try ako dito lang sa paligid ko lang. Ang dami namang nagbilihan.
Skincare, personal care, home care, trunk care, pet care. Kayang-kaya ng Citronella.
Mayroon siyang calming ingredients. Nare-relax yung buong katawan mo.
Lots of benefit in one product lang.
Ako po, si Robin Padilla. At ito po ang unlad. Kagapay sa hanap buhay.
Sila ang mga kinikilalang bayaning may mahalagang papel para makamit ang kalayaan at pagbabago sa Pilipinas. Pero sa panahong ito, may mga bagong bayaning nakikipaglaban sa sakit na lumaganap sa buong daigdig. ang COVID-19. Ang ating mga frontliner, gaya ng healthcare workers, mga doktor, nurses, medical technologists, at iba pang health professionals, mga pulis, sundalo, security guards, mga tauhan na nangangalaga sa seguridad at mahahalagang pangangailangan ng bawat komunidad. Ang mga bagong bayani, ating pasalamatan. Kilalanin ang kanilang sakripisyo at serbisyo para sa lahat.
Welcome back. Global finance officials gathered in Washington were focused on finding a way to alleviate supply chain bottlenecks that are driving prices higher and threatening to derail the economic recovery. Take a look.
C'est évidemment les goulets d'étranglement sur les matières premières, sur les semi-conducteurs et les difficultés que nous avons de recrutement sur le marché du travail. C'est le seul risque qui pèse aujourd'hui sur le retour de la croissance et sur la dynamique de la croissance dans les mois et dans les années qui viennent.
As demand has spiked, suppliers have not been able to keep up. Ships are lined up outside American ports waiting to offload goods. U.S. consumer inflation remained elevated in September. Global oil prices have jumped over $80 a barrel, the highest in years, and British families may do without turkeys for the December holidays. The supply challenges on a global scale will be a key focus of meetings of the IMF, the Group of 20 advanced economies, and a smaller gathering of finance ministers from the Group of 7. Pandemic restrictions shuttered trade routes, and suppliers have not been able to keep up with the sudden surge in demand as economies began to reopen, which has hobbled the recovery.
The White House on Wednesday launched an initiative pushing for 24-hour operations at major ports to alleviate the backlog while simultaneously urging consumers not to panic. U.S. President Joe Biden announced the commitments at a meeting with the leaders of the giant West Coast port and the International Longshore and Warehouse Union. On Tuesday, the International Monetary Fund warned that supply chain disruptions are driving price increases as it trimmed its growth outlook in an increasingly uneven global recovery. Take a look.
Pandemic outbreaks in critical links of global supply chains have resulted in longer than expected supply disruptions, feeding inflation in many countries. Amidst high uncertainty, on the one hand, pandemic outbreaks and climate disruptions have resulted in shortages of key inputs and lowered manufacturing activity in several countries. On the other hand, these supply shortages, alongside the release of pent-up demand and the rebound in commodity prices, have caused consumer price inflation to increase rapidly in many countries.
After weeks of negotiation and working with my team and with the major union retailers and freight movers, the Port of Los Angeles announced today that it's going to begin operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This follows the Port of Long Beach's commitment to 24/7 that it announced just weeks ago. The Port of Los Angeles will open over 60 extra hours a week will be open. In total, that will almost double the number of hours that the port is open for business from earlier this year.
There are several factors behind the shortages of key raw materials and finished goods now plaguing retailers, including factory outages in countries that have imposed lockdowns due to COVID-19, unexpected demand spikes for some goods as behavior changed during the pandemic, and a nationwide labor crunch. But the backlog at U.S. ports has been a major contributing factor to the problem, with the neighboring ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach at times have 60 or more vessels offshore unable to anchor. The California ports are a key gateway for goods made in Asia.
Meanwhile, World Bank Group President David Malpass said that the COVID-19 pandemic is pushing up poverty and debt levels in low-income countries, highlighting a tragic reversal in development. Take a look.
We're witnessing a tragic reversal in development. The progress on extreme poverty has been set back by years, for many people by decades, by a decade. And it's vital that we address this head on by redirecting policies in both the advanced economies and developing countries so that growth and investment are more widespread. We're urging governments that have sufficient doses to swap early deliveries to allow more vaccinations in developing countries. And we're urging the finance ministers and health ministers of developing countries to enter contracts in order to get deliveries early as soon as possible of vaccines. And we're working with countries also to reduce the hesitancy, to encourage the vaccination of people. I think the world should help by focusing on more resources. IDA is a critical part of that. And by debt relief, the common framework is a critical part of that. And then by countries doing, and the private sector bringing in huge amounts of new resources in order to fight these problems.
And as we heard there, Malpass stressed that many countries, especially the poor ones, are faced with debt challenges. In the international debt statistics released Monday, the World Bank estimated that debt burden in low-income countries rose by 12% to a record $860 billion last year.
Singapore's central bank tightened monetary policy for the first time in 3 years on Thursday, the latest country to act against inflation, as coronavirus hit economies reopen amid continuing supply chain bottlenecks. The move by the Monetary Authority of Singapore, or MAS, came as the economy grew 6.5% year-on-year in the third quarter, according to preliminary estimates, extending the city-state's recovery from its worst-ever recession last year due to the pandemic. Singapore has taken a strategy of living with the virus by ramping up its vaccination rate, currently at around 85%, as it opens up the economy and eases travel for those who have been vaccinated. MAS move is in response to concerns that inflation globally may stay elevated for longer than what may be currently perceived, said Song Seng-moon, a regional economist with CIMB Private Banking. For Singapore, which imports everything from food on the table to shoes, he said, it is inevitable that a stronger exchange rate is needed to contain inflation as much as possible. This is all the more crucial as the economy is expected to continue growing into next year, with further opening up as travel agents or gains base added. Now, Singapore conducts monetary policy through the exchange rate, in which the local dollar is managed against a basket of the currencies of its major trading partners. MAS said Thursday it will raise slightly the slope of the Singapore's dollars exchange policy band from 0%, which would allow for a modest appreciation of the unit. This will ensure price stability over the medium term while recognizing the risks to the economic recovery, it said. Singapore has registered more than 135,000 virus cases, but a very low level of fatalities compared with other countries reporting just 192 deaths.
Now, lockdowns and mobility restrictions prevent small and medium enterprises, or SMEs, from accessing financing, and this makes it more difficult for them to sustain their operations, according to the National Economic Development Authority, or NEDA. At the NEDA budget hearing at the Senate, Socioeconomic Planning Secretary Carl Kendrick Chua said that this is one of the primary reasons for his recommendation to reopen the economy, albeit safely, taking into consideration health and safety protocols. Take a look.
The idea of a recovery is we allow the businesses to operate, but we have not really allowed many businesses to operate given our heightened quarantine. So that is the reason why more businesses become affected. That is the reason why banks are, I guess, more risk averse to lending, because when they lend, they want to make sure that the businesses will operate. But if we continue to have heightened quarantines, then there is a lot of hesitation and uncertainty. That is why I think the more sustainable way to help businesses is to first open the economy. We have restricted them for more than 18 months already. Once we are able to open, then we will have this more virtuous cycle wherein those businesses that need financing or grants to support them will be provided by the financial sector. But if we just provide the funds, let's say Bayanihan 2, but then we restrict the economy from operating, then we are in this chicken and egg cycle that the businesses don't operate, tax revenues fall, then we do not have additional revenues to provide more targeted support. In the same way, last year when we gave the Ayuda or SAP, we were hoping that this SARS-2 or this COVID will be gone by 6 months. It is now proven to be getting to be more endemic. So if we had the, I guess, yung practice of providing ayuda every month and every time, no, we would have easily run out of money. So yes, we will provide this support, but I think yung underlying necessary condition is the opening up. Otherwise, we will be just putting money or lending money to firms or people that cannot turn around that money and become productive.
Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III said that if Saudi employers fail to settle the unpaid wages and end of contract payments of some 10,000 OFWs amounting to some 4.5 billion pesos, he may consider recommending to President Duterte another deployment ban in the kingdom.
Alam mo kasi, I will present to the Minister of Labor ng Kingdom of Saudi Arabia yung problema nung mahigit 10,000 mga kababayan natin na matandaan mo na tenga nung 2016, yung pagdating ko sa Department of Labor, yun ang nakita ko. 11,000 of our overseas workers in the Middle East, especially in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, ay natenga doon, nagtatrabaho, mahigit 1 o 2 taon na hindi nasweldoan, kaya namulubi yung ating mga OFW. Kaya napilitan kami ni Pangulong Duterte na nilipad sila dito sa ating bansa. At yung unpaid salary sila, i-claim sila na 4.6 billion ay hanggang ngayon ay hindi nababayaran. Kaya ito ang magandang pagkakataon para kausapin ko yung Minister of Labor ng Kingdom of Saudi Arabia na kung maaari naman ay nangako naman sila natuparin nila yung pangako nila na isettle na yung claims ng ating mga kababayan. Ay mahigit mahigit 4 na taon na. Hanggang ngayon di pa nasisettle. Kawawa yung ating mga kababayan. 4 na taon naghihintay na mabayaran yung kanilang unpaid salaries and end of service. So I will drive the point na kung hindi nila isettle yan, I will get a clearance from the President that I may consider I will consider recommending to the President another deployment ban kung hindi nila masettle yung claims ng ating mga kababayan.
And Star Trek actor William Shatner finally became a real space traveler on Blue Origin's second crewed mission Wednesday, calling it the most profound experience of his life. Let's watch.
That's unlike anything you'll ever feel in that world.
And by
experience was for them, and I can't wait to hear their stories.
And you look down, there's the blue down there, and the black up there, and it's just, there is Mother Earth. It was so moving to me. This experience has been something unbelievable. I hope I never recover from this. I hope that I can maintain what I feel now. I don't want to lose it. It's so much larger than me and life. And it hasn't got anything to do with the little green planet, the blue orb, and it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the enormity and the quickness. And everybody in the world needs to do this. Everybody in the world needs to see.
He was joined on the 11-minute journey beyond Earth's atmosphere and back again by three others. Blue Origin executive Audrey Powers, Planet Labs co-founder Chris Boyjizen, and Glenn DeVries, NEDA Solutions. A new Shepard rocket took off from the company's West Texas base at around 9:49 a.m. local time after experiencing two brief delays, eventually soaring to 66 miles or 106 kilometers above sea level. Now, like the almost 600 astronauts who have gone before him, Shatner marveled at the experience of weightlessness and the stunning view of our world from space. For many space enthusiasts, Shatner's voyage was a fitting coda for a pop culture phenomenon that inspired generations of astronauts, scientists, and engineers. The show has a long-running association with NASA, whose scientists were sent early scripts to vet their accuracy, according to authorities. Another mega fan, Bezos himself, the Amazon founder, shared an of Star Trek artwork he made when he was 9 years old. Bezos has said Amazon's Alexa voice assistant was inspired by the conversational computer on the Enterprise, and he even made a cameo as an alien in the 2016 film Star Trek Beyond, sporting an egg-shaped head.
I would also not want to forget that experience. Good on him.
Unforgettable indeed. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's it for tonight's broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I am CJ Hero. The news continues tomorrow.
And at the end of the day, there remains so much more to be grateful for. We'll see you back tomorrow. I'm Alma Angeles, and
we live
in interesting times.
Dapat iintindihin kita pag ika'y nagalit. Hindi kita sasabayan.
Hi guys! Ako nga pala si Seth Dongka at abangan niyo ko bilang guest performer sa Letters and Music ngayong Sabado, October 16, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Siyempre, dito lang sa NED 25. See you po!
Walang hanggan